In the wake of World War II, psychiatrists promised world governments workable mental health solutions for not only war, but also mounting social problems. They began to popularize the notion that psychiatry was the cure for any and all mental troubles. But behind the facade lay betrayal, coercion, and brutal abuses. But against this backdrop of vested interest and deceit, one psychiatrist had the courage to speak the truth about psychiatric coercion. Dr. Thomas Szasz, a professor emeritus of psychiatry and a lifetime fellow of the American Psychiatric Association.
Another lamentable new development is a claim that millions of children suffer from a mental illness called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and that Ritalin, administered to the children, often against the parents' will. Of course, it's always against the child's will, but nobody's asking the children. And that the administration of Ritalin is a treatment for it. Well, if you believe that, you don't believe anything. No behavior or misbehavior is a disease or can be a disease. That's not what diseases are. Diseases are malfunctions of the human body, of the heart, the liver, the kidney, the brain, and so forth. So it doesn't matter how a child behaves. There is nothing to examine. If he's sick, then there must be some objective science to it, which can be diagnosed by physicians and objective tests. As soon as you go to a doctor, they take a lot of blood and take x-rays. They don't want to hear how you behave. Labeling a child as mentally ill is stigmatization, not diagnosis. Giving a child a psychiatric drug is poisoning, not treatment.
In the last 2 decades, we've heard more and more attention about deficit disorders, A.D.D., and attention deficit hyperactive disorder, A.D.H.D. The most common treatment for this disorder is a drug called Ritalin.
According to the manufacturers of the drugs, the following side effects can and do occur: heart palpitations, cardiac arrhythmias, psychosis, dizziness, and tremor, to just name a few. There is no valid test for ADHD. The diagnosis, called ADHD, is completely subjective.
And for anyone from the APA or psychiatry to come here and say these are diseases is a fraud.
Fox News has learned 7 of the last 12 school shooters were on Luvox-like antidepressants or SSRIs. The list includes 15-year-old Kip Kinkle withdrawing from Prozac when he shot 22 classmates, killing 2 after murdering his mother and stepfather at his home in Springfield, Oregon. And 17-year-old Eric Harris on Luvox when he and partner Dylan Klebold killed 12 classmates and a teacher in the bloodiest school massacre yet, Columbine.
In 1997, after his mother had reluctantly decided to put him on Ritalin, she saw disturbing changes.
He went from a social child to an antisocial child.
Michael was suffering from some of the most common stimulant side effects.
Instead of recognizing the effects the drugs were having on my son, the school psychologist claimed Michael now had a quote-unquote social anxiety disorder and needed to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist talked to Michael for 15 minutes and diagnosed him with social anxiety disorder. She handed me a prescription for an antidepressant and told me it was a wonder drug for kids. Michael started taking the antidepressant. Shortly afterwards, he told his teacher he was hearing a male voice in his head telling him to do bad things. I did what I knew I had to do. I took him off the drugs, which culminated with the school calling Child Protective Services on my husband and I, charging us with medical neglect.
After a short time of taking the pills, Anthony was begging me to get him off the drug. He said to me, "Mommy, I don't feel good. I feel dizzy. I keep falling asleep in the class." I took him to 2 medical doctors and both told me to get him off that drug. So I did. When the therapist found out that I did that, she forced me to get him back on the drug. I told her, what do you want for me to kill my child? I refused one more time to put him back on the drug. 2 days later, 2 policemen and 2 social workers came to my house and took all 4 of my kids away. The police said that it was for neglecting to give a prescription order for my son. They told me they would only have my children for 24 hours. Now, almost a year later, I still don't have my children with me.
Matthew Smith took Ritalin from age 6 to the day he died at age 14. On March 21st, the day these pictures were taken, Matthew collapsed at home and never revived. After an autopsy, the medical examiner's conclusion was that Matthew's heart had been damaged by long-term use of methylphenidate, the generic name for Ritalin.
Mark and Cheryl Miller say Zoloft, an antidepressant that was given to help their son, 13-year-old Matthew, killed him instead. Matthew became uncharacteristically moody and agitated, and after 7 days on the drug, he committed suicide.
A little girl named Shayna Dunkel.
She always was happy, very upbeat. She could just make the sun shine. The school kept influencing, saying, something's not right here. She can't sit still. You should do something.
Psychiatrist Roger LaRoche in Bradford, Pennsylvania, diagnosed Shayna with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Dr. LaRoche described desipramine as safer, with fewer side effects, and less potential for abuse. Shayna was given more and more of the drug, and over a 5-month period, her prescribed dosage increased to 250 milligrams per day.
10 o'clock in the morning, I received a phone call from the school nurse telling me that Shayna had taken a slight fall in library. And I explained to her that we were going to go to the doctor, and immediately she said, Mommy, I don't need to go to the doctor. I feel perfectly fine. I want to play my Nintendo.
Vicki and Steve drove Shayna to her pediatrician, just a few feet away from Dr. LaRoche's office.
And the doctor listened to Shayna's heart, and he said, call a code 99. It meant cardiac arrest. And I knew my baby was in trouble. My husband and I and the doctor and the nurse, we picked our daughter up, and we took her into an examining room, and they took her shirt off, and she took 2 breaths of air. And that was the last time we ever saw our daughter alive. She died right there in a doctor's office where we thought we were taking her and she could come home and play Nintendo. She never made it back. She died there. Saving other children, speaking out, that's what I need to do.